jaundice and palpable spleen, very recent history. So you have to investigate. You are given a full blood count. I have given the same full blood count with neutrophil leukocytosis, hemoglobin low, hematocrit low, MCV high. So basically here again low HB, high MCV. So what is the cause for high MCV in this patient? You go back to the history, you can get some points. Patient is jaundice. There's palpable spleen. So what is the cause for this high MCV? Blood picture reported as polychromatics and spherocytes. So these polychromatics are the cause for this high MCV. Again, in this patient, LDH high, retic count very high, and Coombs positive, indirect bilirubin levels high. So you have a diagnosis here. You are dealing with a hemolytic anemia. So is it congenital or acquired? You go back to the history and see whether the history is recent onset or a long-term history. And in the investigations, this is a positive test, indicate that you are dealing with acquired hemolytic anemia. So reticulocytes. These are the reticulocytes. When you see under the microscope, it is bluish color when you see under the microscopes. They are high in hemolysis, bleeding, in response to treatment, iron or erythropoietin, and if it's high in pregnancy and diseases like erythroblastosis fetalis. So increased production, overproduction of NRBCs, release reticulocyte into the circulation. And this is low in bone marrow failure, CKD, untreated anemias. So when you request a retic count, they give a normal retic count, normal range 0.5 to 2.5. But keep in mind, this is the best thing. Reticulocyte index is the best diagnostic tool to see whether you are producing reticulocyte, because this is a correction according to the anemia. So you get used to this formula. If your retic index is less than 2, it indicates that there's reduction of the production of reticulocytes. If it is more than 3, then there is increased destruction or bleeding, increased production of reticulocytes. Okay, we'll go to the case number 6. This is something different from the previous cases. A 57-year-old male presented with headache for 1 week and dizziness. He is not on any medication. He's a non-smoker, blood pressure normal, on examination plethoric. There's no lymph nodes, spleen palpable, liver not palpable, central nervous examination normal. So this patient, when you examine, you have noticed plethoric. So you are dealing with most possibly not anemic condition, you are dealing with polycythemic condition. So this is the full blood count. WBC high, 14,610. Neutrophil high, that's neutrophil leukocytosis. The rest of the parameter differential normal. RBC high, 6.34. Hemoglobin 17.8, which is very high. And hematocrit 54.7, normal indices, and RDW high. Platelet high with normal MPV. So basically high RBC and high HB with almost all parameters are increased. So blood picture reported as erythrocytosis, leukocytosis, thrombocytosis. So are you dealing with primary polycythemia or secondary polycythemia? So always you have to perform, when you see a report like this, you have to perform a non-tourniquet full blood count. So if that is also high, then you have to investigate, as I said earlier, hematocrit more than 49, you have to investigate in males and 48 for females. You have to exclude secondary causes like smoking, cardiac shunts, liver renal diseases, and erythropoietin secreting tumors. So is this patient, is it clonal or reactive? Reactive means is it secondary or clonal? Then you have to go on the investigations, 2D echo, LFT, RFT, serum erythropoietin. If these are abnormal, then you are dealing with a reactive or secondary cause. Ultrasound scan, if you see splenomegaly, and if in your blood cell indices, if you see low MCV, MCH, that's more towards you are dealing with a clonal disease, primary polycythemia. So to confirm that, you have to perform JAK2 mutation and bone marrow biopsy. So this patient actually had primary polycythemia. So abnormal hematocrit, you see, as again I'm repeating, PRV, dehydration, congenital heart disease, smoking, and hemoconcentrations. Okay, we talk about platelets briefly. The function of platelets to stop bleeding, and they don't have nucleus. They are only fragments that derive from megakaryocytes from the bone marrow. So these are the megakaryocytes that you see. Low platelet concentration we call thrombocytopenia, elevated concentration of platelet thrombocytosis, and function abnormality we call thrombocytopathy. So normal range 150,000 to 400,000. So what are the causes of increased platelet count? It could be reactive, again, it could be clonal. If reactive causes are any cancer anywhere in the body, inflammatory diseases, iron deficiency, recovering phase of illness, very important. Sometimes even after viral infection, you assume the platelet to be dropped, but to see sometimes you get 600, 700 platelet counts. And bleeding. And clonal disorder, myeloproliferative disease, we call ET or essential thrombocythemia. Okay, case number 8. This is a 47-year-old lady with alteration of vision in one eye. Not pale, no lymph nodes, spleen, liver, not palpable. When eye examination, there's no any abnormality. So you are given a full blood count. Yes, this is abnormal full blood count. WBC 25,000. Neutrophils 23,000. There's neutrophil leukocytosis. When you see RBC normal, HB normal, MCV, MCH on the low side. This platelet count grossly elevated. Normal count for normal upper limit is 450. So here 1,200 like. So it's high platelet, normal MPV with transient alteration of vision in one eye. So you have some clue to your diagnosis. So blood picture was reported, thrombocytosis, platelet, anisocytosis, microcytic hyperchromic red cells to see ESR, CRP all normal. So are you dealing with this clonal or reactive? Can you go by the platelet count? No, you can't. Sometimes you see invert patients, especially invert patients, you get very high counts, 800, 900. After surgeries, you get 1,000 counts. You can't go by the platelet count. So it's very important to take a history. Check the platelet count of the patients on admission and compare with the last count. If your admission count is normal, most possibly you are dealing with the reactive thrombocytosis. And take the history, recent reactive causes like surgeries, infection, trauma, carcinoma. If there's a history, then you are more towards reactive causes. Then you have to perform, when you see that much of high platelet count, you have to perform ultrasound scan. This patient had splenomegaly and blood picture findings, anisocytosis, which these two features are more in favor of clonal disorder. To confirm, actually you have to do bone marrow and genetic test. JAK2 may be positive, so this lady's diagnosis was ET, essential thrombocythemia from time to time obstructing the retinal arteries. Okay, again we are talking about platelets. Case number 9. A 56-year-old male diagnosed patient with CKD come to your clinic with full blood count. He had fatigue, no bleeding, no fever, pallor, no ecchymosis, no lymph nodes, no organomegaly. Basically, patient comes to your routine clinic with pallor, but no other positive findings. So in the full blood count, you see WBC normal 8,230, normal differential, neutrophil 3,000, lymphocyte 3,000, RBC count low, hemoglobin 9.4, hematocrit low, normal MCV, MCH, little high RDWCV, platelets low, normal MPV. So when you see this part, you know that there's normocytic normochromic anemia, which is possibly due to CKD, and the low platelet count. There's no history, there's no such history of low thrombocytopenia. So are you dealing with the correct report? Is this correct platelet count? So we have repeated the count again, the normal same platelet count you are getting, maybe little lower than this value. So you have to check the blood picture. When you see the blood picture, can you see whole lot of platelet aggregates with normocytic normochromic anemia? This is called EDT-induced platelet aggregation. We see this type of cases once a month, like we see these patients. So what is the correct platelet count? Why these platelets are aggregated in some patients? The reason is some patients have antibodies to EDTA solution that cause clumping of the platelets. So these clump platelets, machine identify as 1 or 2 particles, so they give a very low value. So how do you correct the platelet count? You have to send a sample in a citrated sample. Ideally, you should bring the patient, if possible, to the closest to the machine and take the sample very quickly. Then you have to apply to the machine. Because when you are transporting from ward to the lab, in that period also in a citrated tube, sometimes your platelets get clumps. So this is another example of citrated full blood count. I hope you can see this is EDTA sample on this side. You can see the platelet count is 0. And this is again a 3-part hematology analyzer. You have 3 lymphocyte, mid count, and a granular site. When you repeat the sample in a citrated sample, you get the normal value 189. Okay, we go on to another case with low platelets. Case number 10. A 47-year-old lady presented with bluish patches on hands and abdomen for the last 1 week. No fever, no history of drug, so no significant past medical history. Examination, you see petechia only. Rest of the examination normal. So this is the full blood count. You can see high WBC, neutrophil, leukocytosis, and prominent monocytes. When you move to the RBC, it's normal. Hemoglobin normal. Hematocrit on the low side. MCV again here low, 64. MCH low, 21. And platelets low, and mean platelet volume is normal. So there are again a dual, are you dealing with a dual pathology with normal hemoglobin, low MCV, MCH, and thrombocytopenia? Again, you have the question whether this platelet count is correct. You repeat the sample, you get the same value, you see a blood picture, then it was reported as microcytic hyperchromic anemia with thrombocytopenia. So differential diagnosis Taltray with ITP, iron deficiency or iron deficiency with ITP. So you have to investigate on these two lines. You have to perform serum ferritin, HPLC, to differentiate Taltray and iron deficiency, and you can do ANA to find the cause. We don't go for bone marrow unless the patient isolated thrombocytopenia. We don't do bone marrows unless the patient age is more than 65, or if you have any clinical suspicion of some other disease, then we perform. So this lady was managed as ITP and on treatment. Thrombocytopenia, few words. The lowest limit of normal we consider as 150,000. Below 100,000, always a pathological condition you have to investigate. So in between 100,000 to 150,000, is it a disease or is it a normal variation? Actually, we don't have data. We are seeing a lot of patients with platelet counts in between 100,000 to 150,000. So we label them as most of the time as ITP, but we don't know actually that is their normal range or actually ITP. So what is the safe level of platelet that patient can live? It is 30,000 that you are safe with this platelet count if you don't have any platelet function disorder. So you can observe your platelet count in chronic thrombocytopenic patients. But when you should be alarmed, of course, if the platelet count is less than 20,000, you have to admit the patient and manage in OPD setup. If the patient have active bleeding, even if the platelet count less than 30, more than 30,000, below 50,000, you have to admit and do investigation. Wet purpura, you have to investigate. And in involved patients, if you have patient with TTP, you have to be cautious about the platelet count. If the patient is going for a surgery, then you have to keep an eye on your platelet count. So the relevance of thrombocytopenia in individual patient is variable and it depends on the clinical presentation. So there are a lot of causes for decreased platelet count starting from viral infection. But I just want to highlight one point. Isolated thrombocytopenia has limited differential diagnosis. One is ITP, second is drug-induced thrombocytopenia, which is where the commonest cause that we are missing most of the time, because it can be easily confused as ITP and sometimes we diagnose as ITP these drug-induced thrombocytopenia. The thing is, it's very challenging to diagnose drug-induced thrombocytopenia because in situations like for some foods and beverages, cow's milk, tonic water, certain herbal remedies can cause thrombocytopenia. Not only for drugs. So keep that in mind. Sometimes if you see if drug-induced thrombocytopenia, they will recover in 2 to 3 months or weeks. ITP, they will not recover. You need treatment. Okay. Case number 11. This 72-year-old male presented with fatigue and backache for 3 months. There's no trauma, no arthritis, lower spinal area tenderness was there, no neurological signs, no liver, and no spleen palpable. So only one diagnosis we have in our setup in hematology aspects, backache, young all person with a backache, then you have only one diagnosis. So this is the full blood count, hemoglobin 10.1, MCV low, MCV on the high side, MCH normal, MCHC normal, RDW normal, low platelets, MPV normal, low WBC. So basically you have pancytopenia with high MCV and a history of backache. So your next line of investigation, quite sure you definitely you perform ESR. ESR is 132. Blood picture is very diagnostic. mark ruler formation. This is called Chinese letter appearance. And you get some atypical lymphocyte, you might get, and macrocytes are there. So your tentative diagnosis of multiple myeloma you made from here, but you have to confirm your diagnosis. Serum, you had to do free serum calcium, which would be high in multiple myeloma, serum proteins high, renal functions alterations, bone X-ray to see a lot of lytic for lytic lesions in the skull X-rays, and most important thing, serum protein electrophoresis. You can see this is the normal pattern, and you can see a peak here. That is the M band. And bone marrow examination, clonal plasma cells, 10 set of tests for the prognostication. And one point I just want to highlight: urine Bence-Jones proteins. It can give you a false positive test, so we don't perform very much. You go for the other tests. So the diagnosis of multiple myeloma confirmed in this patient. Okay, case number 12. A 77-year-old male presented to you with generalized body aches for 3 days, no documented fever, not on long-term medication. On examination, mild splenomegaly, generalized lymphadenopathy, but not significant, less than 0.5 centimeter. And you are provided with the full blood count. I hope you can see this. I'll just read out the figures. WBC 1300, neutrophil 690, and lymphocyte also low. All the cell lines are low with leukopenia and neutropenia. Hemoglobin normal and platelets normal. MPV 10.2. So you assume that the platelet actual count is more than this. And you are dealing with bicytopenia. So what is your differential diagnosis? So this is a straightforward case. You must be dealing with a viral infection. Are you dealing with the bacterial sepsis? Yes, possible. You get low counts with bacterial infection. And are you dealing with a malignancy? So you have to investigate on this line. In this patient, pure and simple viral infection. So you need to investigate, admit, you have to exclude dengue with low platelets in this patient. So leukopenia, only one point I just want to highlight. The severe infection causes leukopenia, which is very common in hospital setup, in ICU patients, critically ill patients. And there are a whole lot of causes for leukopenia. Opposite of that, leukocytosis. So the commonest cause is bacterial infection, inflammation, leukemias, tissue damage, intensive exercises. So these two cases, I just want to show you to differentiate two conditions. This is case number 13, a 48-year-old lady presented with impaired vision to eye surgeon. When examined, he has found there are retinal hemorrhages, and he has done a full blood count. Obviously, you can see a major abnormality here. WBC very high, and the differential was not appeared because the machine, full blood count machine, cannot recognize the cell type. RBC low, hemoglobin low, and platelet low. So I'm not going into detail of this patient. Blood picture was reported as chronic myeloid leukemia with blast cells, abnormal cells in the blood picture, and confirmed by bone marrow examination, Philadelphia chromosome, and BCR-ABL testing. Just compare that case with this one. This is a male patient with 67-year-old male person, comes inward patient with SOB and fever for 7 days, and checks X-ray with focal opacity, and referred to exclude hematological malignancy because the patient had very high count. Can you see high WBC 84,000? Here the differential appeared in this full blood count, neutrophil leukocytosis, low RBC, low HB, normal platelets. So in this patient, initially, this patient had very high CRP. It's coming down, but rising WBC was the worry of the physician. So when you see the blood picture, it's neutrophil leukocytosis, no blast cells, no abnormal cells, non-chromic normocytic anemia. So high WBC, is it always a hematological malignancy? No, it's a this is a leukomyte reaction. The count can go up to 100,000 even with leukomyte reaction. So by the count, you cannot go or diagnose as leukemia. So this is very common condition when we see very high WBC count with normal CRP in cryptic abscesses like lung abscesses, you get your CRP comes down, but your WBCs rise up. So these are the causes for leukemyte reaction: severe infection and including TB, and drugs GCSF. You give GCSF when the WBC count is very low. If you forget to monitor the counts by day 3, day 5, sometimes your patient might get very high WBC like 30,000, 40,000. And other causes like tissue ischemia and paraneoplastic syndrome. Paraneoplastic syndrome we see especially in lung malignancies, you get very high count of neutrophils, 100,000, sometimes eosinophils, 50 to 60,000. Okay, this is my last case. Case number 15. This is, I thought, because this is a common presentation to your OPD setup or private clinics. 80 years old patient in routine clinic follow-up for hypertension. You are provided with a full blood count. This is a male patient. And WBC 12,640. Neutrophil 4,000. Lymphocyte to see it's 7,000. So you see high lymphocyte count here. RBC low, normal, hemoglobin normal indices, red cell indices, and low platelets. So you are having high lymphocyte count and low platelet. So are you dealing with viral infection or some chronic lymphoproliferative disease? So you have to go back to your examination. You just see whether there are any lymph nodes, spleen, palpable. You have to perform ultrasound scan. Then you see a blood picture. It's very diagnostic. You see a lot of lymphocytes in the blood picture with smear cells or smudge cells, more in favor of CLL or chronic lymphoproliferative disease. So this case has to be diagnosed with bone marrow and flow cytometry. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Madam, for the elaborative and excellent presentation. Thank you very much, Madam, for the elaborative and excellent presentation. Now, it's time to invite clinical queries. Thank you very much for all the participants as well. Today we had more than 170 participants in the webinar. Please use the chat box to share your doubts. So I don't see any questions.
Hello, madam. There are a few questions. Are there? If a patient with thalassemia trait, do we have to correct hemoglobin levels before doing the HPLC report?
The thing is, if you have severe iron deficiency, can you hear me?
Yes, madam.
We diagnose thalassemia by HPLC, HbA2 levels. if the patient is having severe iron deficiency, your HbA2 level can go down with severe iron deficiency. So your diagnosis can be missed. So in that case, we try to give them a course of iron treatment and bring up the hemoglobin close to around 8 and check the HbA1c. In thalassaemic tray patients.
Another question, madam. How to trace the do the family screening of thalassemia patients? Is it due to from a blood picture or HPLC reports, madam?
If one sibling is having a thalassemic trait, ideally what we do in thalassaemic center, they perform full blood count. Full blood count, if the indices are normal, then they don't perform. If the indices are abnormal, they go for HPLC. So in outside, if you are seeing a patient in your private practice or anywhere, just see your full blood count or the family members. You can see from the MCV, MCH whether they are normal or low. If you have any suspicion, then straight away you can go for HPLC rather than blood picture in diagnosis of thalassemia.
Right. Thank you very much, madam.
Thank you, madam. There is one more question from Varuni. Is it necessary to give folic acid with confirmed vitamin B12 deficiency?
If your diagnosis is confirmed as a vitamin B12 deficiency, then no need to give. But we are not doing serum B12 levels in all and every patient. So in that case, we cover both diseases.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Hope madam cleared all of your doubts. Is there furthermore queries now? So if there are no more queries, I would like to thank Dr. Radha Jayatunga for her excellent and informative presentation on behalf of the GMOA and Society for Health Research and Innovation. And I would like to invite Dr. Chandika Epirkaduwa to present the token of appreciation to Dr. Radha Jayatunga.
Thank you.
Thank you all for your participation. And next week also we'll be having a Zoom webinar on a very interesting subject. Please follow us and Health Research and Innovation. Kindly mute your microphones and turn off the camera during the presentation and use the chat box to clear your doubts. It is my pleasure to introduce today's speaker, Dr. Radha Jayatunga, consultant hematologist. She has a wide experience as a consultant for the last 10 years, working in many parts of the country, currently attached to the teaching hospital, Kurunagala. Over to you, ma'am.